Well, hello out there in YouTube land, and welcome to Sidetrack Sunday number 1 for the month of February 2025. It happens to be February the 2nd, 2025, and hopefully everybody can hear me because, well, I've just had all sorts of freaking fun, and I was trying something a little bit different. I was going to try to pull the chat up on an iPad so I could see the chat there and not have to worry about seeing it up on the computer to try and save the computer. And, well, for whatever reason, the iPad doesn't show chat. I don't understand why, but for whatever reason, there's no chat there. So this is completely useless. Gotta love it. Not sure what the heck is wrong with this thing, but it is not showing me the chat. I am going to see if I can figure out how to possibly get it to maybe show me chat. But it's not doing it, so oh well. I'll just have to do it the other way and hope that the computer can handle it. Oh well, so much for that. Actually, doesn't really matter because after I get past the participants list, I can shut it down up there, and I can see the StreamYard chat. I just can't see the YouTube chat. So I'm going to try and tempt fate here for a minute and pull up YouTube and see if the computer goes completely bonkers when we do it. Let's see. And of course, that's not there. So we've got to just bear with me here for a minute. We're going to get this figured out one way or the other. Never fails. It's always something. If it were easy, everybody would want to do it. See, Bob? Even I still have issues with this stuff. He's actually in the basement. I haven't brought him up yet because I wanted to go ahead and get this thing rocking and rolling and talk about a couple of things real quick, and then we'll bring him up because we're actually kind of, I guess, for lack of a better term, we're tag teaming this. And are you going to show? Hey, look at that! There's the chat. At least on the computer. Gotta love it. Gotta love it. And let's see here. Let's go over through the participants list and see who we've got out there. All right, so we've got Mr. Almar in the house. We've got Opa Dodge, Anthony Dodge, the Metal Train Outsider is here. We've got JP over at the Beaumont Hill subdivision. We've got Caboose 1973 Channel 1 in the house. We've got Dave from the Carolina Foothills, followed by Dave DB Tech. Sorry, you kind of broke up the thing here, James, but James over at Dundas Junction is in the house. We've got JD over at Grandpa Rails. We've got Rodney over at Hot Rod Rodney 25. We've got Mr. Joe Rader at the Block Rock Central. We got Mr. John Benicki. We've got John Train BFGR in the house. We've got Ken's Back Shop in the house. We've got Mr. Dwight Curley over at the Curley Express. We've got Greg from Midsummer Railway N Scale. I do believe I got that right. It's nice that we've got this wonderful sheet now that tells us who people are because we've been working on that. And it is. Woohoo! I got it right. And we've got Bob over at PK&W Model Works. We've got me, and I tell you, I am really not sure that I'm here. We've got Mr. Ron Moen in the house. We've got Steve 87 PSAP. And then we've got Mr. Todd Armstrong, Trackside Action in the house. Welcome in, everybody. And of course, the participants list was bouncing around. I'm going to go back and see if I missed anybody. I did. We've got JJ over at the Great Northern. Welcome in. And I think that covers it. Yeehaw. Oh, my. Hey, Rail Artist is here. And you didn't show up in the participants list for some stupid reason. I guess it's because you just came in. Maybe. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, Mike. We'll get there. Yep. So, a couple of things before I go ahead and bring Mr. Bob from PK&W up. I want to talk about real quick the Great Scale Model Train Show, which was this weekend. It ended earlier today. It was actually a really good show. It was packed, which was really good to see. That was number one. Not only was it packed, but at least when I was there from 11 to 1, it seemed like the demographic, or 11:30 to 1, it seemed like the demographic was fairly well spread out too. So it wasn't, a whole bunch of us old farts running around. There was a lot of middle-aged and younger people there too, which was really good to see, because that was one of the things that my brother had touched on one of the shows that he had actually gone to. He told me, he says, it seems like there's a lot of older people and not a lot of younger people here anymore. I'm like, well, it's kind of transition. So, but yeah, it was really, really good to see the demographic, where there was a whole bunch of different folks there. And, like I said, it was mobbed. I heard from Joe and from Ted. I don't know if Ted's in here. I didn't see him pop in, but Joe said he actually got there early as well. And the line was up past the main building, almost up to the other building, the exhibition hall. So, and when I got there, there was still quite a bit of a line. It wasn't quite that bad, but there was still a little bit of a line to get in. So, like I said, good to see. Good to see. The only thing I picked up yesterday was something that I really needed for the project that I've been working on back at the bench, which is the 2 FP7As. I needed some micro saw and micro set so I could go ahead and put the decals on that John number 2 sent me. So I've now got that stuff. I'm good to go for that. And, unfortunately, I have not been back to the bench today, or actually this weekend at all. And it's mainly because of the fact that here it is, John's under the weather. Well, I actually haven't been 100% myself. I apparently have pinched a nerve or a muscle in my upper back, and my right arm has been giving me problems all weekend. So, it's like I really have been trying to, for the most part, kind of take it easy, not overdoing it, to try and give the arm and the neck, or actually my body, period, a possible chance to recover. So, thankfully, I see the chiropractor this week. That'll help, I'm sure. Of course, he's going to yell at me, "Why the heck weren't you in here earlier?" I thought it was going to go away on its own. Well, yeah, no, that's not so much. This is definitely not going away the way I want it to. Yeah. Pinched nerves are no fun. This one here right now has got it to where it starts at the shoulder, goes down the back of the arm and into the elbow, and it's right now it's uncomfortable because I've actually got medication for my back. And I've been kind of taking that more regularly to see if that helps. And it's really, the only thing it's doing is taking the edge off. So, it's one of those things. You can only do so much, and you gotta know when to take a step back. And this weekend was a weekend to take a step back and just, kind of take it easy and just kind of not do a whole heck of a lot. Hey, Anthony from the Georgia Sun Belt just popped in. Welcome in, sir. Walking around the show and all yesterday wasn't a problem, but it just lifting and move and it just no, it's not a good situation. It's not a good situation at all. Yeah, I did not like the idea. Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. That's how they found your collapsed disc. Yeah. Yeah, this one here, like I said, I've been fighting back problems for years. And, thankfully, like I said, I see the chiropractor and it takes care of 9. Trust me, you can say what you want, and I'm way off topic here, but this chiropractor has done a lot for me, because there was a time where my left knee would spasm to the point where it would shut my body down. I mean, I would literally start grabbing and clenching. That's how bad it was. Knock on wood, I have not had that issue in years. So, hey, it's keeping somebody from putting a knife to my back. Yeah, I'll take it. So, yeah, I don't need to be, yeah. Oh, yeah. My brother's godfather went through back surgery years and years and years ago. I know it's a lot different nowadays, but he was never right after the fact. I mean, he was just, yeah, it was just bad. Somebody was saying, hey, Rusty from Possum Bayou is here, and I think Tom Garassi's in the house. Although I didn't see him pop in. So, anyway, let me go ahead and see if Mr. Bob is. Oh, there he is.
I'm still here.
You're still here.
What's going on in my lighting setup? I look like I'm on the surface of Mars or something. What's going on here? Turn my light down a little bit. We'll see if that helps at all. But it's just the ambient light from my screens is lighting me up like crazy. Well, I'm sorry to hear about your pinched nerve. I had the same deal. Going down one side of my body, and it did go away eventually. I honestly, other than some steroids, I don't think anything medical science did really had any effect. The steroids totally knocked it out for a couple of days, and then it kind of healed on its own. So, but it was,
it's annoying.
Oh, and it was sharp pain. My arm was hanging down like a, dead limb. I mean, it was terrible. So I feel for you, man.
It's one of those weird things. Of course, now because of the fact that I haven't been able to sleep right.
Right.
Now that's because it's like, right, you can't get comfortable.
If you're a side sleeper, you can't sleep on.
You can't sleep on the. I'm used to sleeping on the left or the right or both, and it's like, now I can't sleep on the right, so it's like I got to find another. No, it's
the worst thing of all is it's impacting your model railroading.
Well, yeah, exactly.
This is unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
Explain to the doctors. They need to understand. Well, I apologize for my appearance. I'm painting the shop area here. Having your own dedicated building for creative work doesn't get you away from the mundane tasks of maintaining the property, especially when it was in the crappy condition that this one was in. So I spent a good chunk of the last few days painting, and I've moved into my wife's grow room where she's going to be growing plants. Obviously, that needs to be done before my workshop.
Well, but who's
married understands that imperative.
Yeah, exactly. happy spouse, happy house. Yeah, it's.
So I've been in that room working and figuring out, doing the calculations to figure out how many watts of light I need to put in there and how close the lamps need to be to the plants and all this stuff that she has no idea, So,
yeah.
But hopefully Go ahead.
Oh man, yeah, that's going to be interesting that you guys are going to share that space over there. That's
Well,
pretty cool.
I don't expect to see her over here very often, honestly, but
She's like, I'm away from him. Okay.
well, I probably told this story before, but my wife believes that one of the key ingredients to a successful relationship is not spending too much time together. Okay, which seems a little perverse, but I think she's right about that. And so she's hated this whole work from home thing and having me underfoot all the time. And so for me to be able to come down here is outstanding. But what she has done lately, Ray, that I didn't really understand what the impact was going to be, was she started her own YouTube channel. And I've got to tell you, the only thing worse than editing your own videos is having to try to help somebody else edit theirs. And it's I mean, she's having fun, and it's really, it's kind of nice to be able to have a discussion with your spouse about click-through rate. But I don't know. The jury's still out on this one. Well, if anybody in the audience has a spouse or significant other who might be contemplating starting their own channel, I would say proceed with caution. Proceed with caution.
Oh.
But that's why I haven't been modeling very much. I'm still trying to get this space into shape, right?
Right.
But I do have a few. I've got a lot of projects on my mind. But I will say this: I have to thank the whole Sidetrack Sunday community for giving me a swift kick in the butt to get busy.
We would never do
planning
that.
my railroad. And so on the 16th, I'll be sharing some of the preliminary drawings I've done, and I'll probably do more between now and then, and refine a few of the plans, and getting some advice from more experienced folks about what they think of my plan, and how I'm laying that out. So that'll be fun. I look forward to sharing those drawings with everybody. And
but I think you've heard the story that with the old house that I was in, I went through 45 plans before I finally hit the one which was number 46, which was going to be the one that was going to get used, and we ended up moving. So it was. Now the funniest,
I didn't remember that number. That's too many plans, I think.
The funniest thing of it is, though, is that 19-foot by 14-foot layout, which was really became dubbed the Big E, because it was a big E
shape. Yeah.
Became the basis for this thing here. So I already, once I got in here, it was like I knew what I wanted. And it was like, yep, okay, this is, so once I laid out the bench work, it was just on from there.
Right.
But,
right.
Yeah,
well, that's cool. Yeah, and I'm going to start, I'm hoping before the 16th that I'll actually have built one unit of bench work just for a straight area of the layout, just so that I can figure out how I want to do that, how I want to do the adjustable feet to level it, and exactly how high I want it to be. And because my plan is to really have kind of go in reverse order. I want to have finished bench work, skirting on the layout right away. Then I can take my time scenicking. I'll lay track around the layout and be able to run trains. But I can then take my time scenicking, and I can have all of my supplies stored out of sight and that sort of thing. So my plan is to go fast on the bench work and the skirting, and just get the flat top on it, and then I can take my time with the fun stuff.
That's the way you level your feet.
Oh, okay. And there's just a threaded.
Yeah, it's a T-nut. So what you do is you drill a hole in the bottom of the leg, and then you take your bolt and just screw it in there, and then this here happens to be a screw, but
right, you just knock underneath that onto the just a quarter-inch hole in the bottom of the foot, and then you just Yeah, I was just about to do some internet sleuthing to see what the options were there. So yeah, that's easy.
Yeah,
that's easy. Good idea. Simple is always better.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I remembered seeing in one of the very early videos from Model Railroader years. I mean, we're talking 20 some, actually probably closer to 30 years ago, about using leveling feet like that. Now you can get more. I used normal. I think they're 3/8 or quarter inch bolts. So that you could just get a wrench on it, and you could wrench because of the fact that, let's put it this way, eventually the bench work gets heavy. And if you've just got one of those normal leveling feet that you would go ahead and get for like furniture or something like that,
Right.
you can't grip that thing to spin it. Problem one. Problem two, they've got a very short bolt to them. If you go out and you go, I think the ones that are up underneath here are probably 2 or 3 inches long. It's a little excessive. I get it, but I wanted to make sure.
Better
I
too
wanted to
long.
make sure. I wanted to make sure I had plenty of wiggle room to go ahead and be able to raise it or lower it, and so that's what I did on this. And you get the bench work like the way that this thing's set up. Trust me, you ain't getting underneath of there and trying to spin that foot. You got to get in there with a wrench to get it to raise the layout up.
Right. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at because JJ in the chat was suggesting feet, and I like that idea, not scratching up the floor that I slaved on painting. But yeah, it's got to be adjustable with a wrench. I get it, or else.
You can always go ahead and get a piece of vinyl or a piece of rubber or something like that, or even a piece underneath the nut to keep it from scratching the floor.
Sure.
The unfortunate thing with this basement was the people that had the house before us, they had the basement waterproofed, and then they had the floor sealed. But the problem is whoever did the ceiling on the ceiling on the floor, whoever painted the floor, they didn't give it enough time, or they did it in the wrong time of year or something, because it never really dried.
Ooh. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, so it's like
I didn't notice it was very sticky when I was down there, but
well, it's not if you're just walking on it, but if you go to slide something across it, it just rips it up. The blotters that I have underneath the chair, underneath the desk, I can't move them because they're stuck to the floor. So, it's no, Steve, the reason why this thing is heavy is because of the length of it and the width of it. I mean, behind me, that's 5.5 feet wide. And, I got to think of it off the top of my head. I think it's like 10 or 12 feet long on the backside and like 10 feet on the front. So, and when you've got, because of the fact that I used MDF for the actual L girders, they're 4-inch by 4-inch pieces of MDF. I mean, they're only, I think, a half-inch or a quarter inch. They're 3/8 or a half-inch thick. But that stuff gets heavy after a while. And then, yeah, I know. And then, of course, now Anthony's got a pipe, and he used steel posts. The steel posts are holding up the backdrop.
Yeah, solid steel.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I've got a furniture. 2x4.
Rusty's got a great idea there.
I saw that. Yeah,
furniture sliders.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
That's
under all the furniture in here.
Yeah.
That or casters. I've been hard at putting casters on most of my tool stands and things like that.
What's going on, Johnny? Over the BNC. What's going on? How you been, bud? My goodness, there's a guy that I haven't seen. I know he's been putting out videos here recently. I haven't seen him in the chats in a long time.
Yeah, he has been cranking out the videos.
Yes, he has. And Mom and Son's been in here. I didn't get a chance to say hi to Tammy and Ray. Hello, guys. Yeah, use a brother and a husband. I think she's talking about moving the layout. Anyway.
I assume so. Although, hey, could be something else. We're not going to go there.
We're not going to go. I have wood floors in this house that are 80 years. Wow. And I personally refinished. Nice.
Yeah, you don't want to scratch those up. Yeah.
No.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, my concrete floor here is already scratched up. I had a plumber in here when I bought the place. The backflow valve. Commercial properties have these exposed backflow valves that have to be certified every year for safety. I'm not sure why a home doesn't have to have that. You would think that would be just as important. But at any rate, when I bought this place, the backflow valve was leaking into a bucket. And so I had to have that replaced, one of the many on the short list of things to get my certificate of occupancy. And that plumber tore that floor up, and he was not, uncareful or anything. But if I'd known better, I would have laid down cardboard or some plywood or something for him to work on. So now I've got to get out the paint roller and repaint that area of the floor. But I don't know. At the end of the day, it's just a commercial space. It's not like Rusty's house.
Right.
Care of it, I mean, it's not that big a deal. But yeah, I'm getting ready to put a door on the grow room for my wife's grow room. So I've just bought online a pre-hung door to put on there, and I'm learning how to do things that I've never had to do in a house.
Well, welcome to model railroading.
Well, but no, I'm like these commercial doors. I've got these aluminum frame commercial doors for the front door, and no clue I've got to buy new handles for those, super expensive, I mean, there's a ton of stuff you learn. This backflow thing.
You're right.
Who knew about that, really? So yeah, it's all good though. Yes, I don't for a minute think that I'm not incredibly lucky to have this going on. So
right. No, Johnny, I'm not moving the layout.
yeah, that's too heavy to move.
Yeah.
Not going anywhere. Unless
that's a good question.
Relatives show up.
Yeah, right. There's a good question for you, Bob.
Yes, I did. This place was originally a gunsmith shop, and then it became a beer distributorship. Both of those are relatively high security places. So there's very few windows, and there was a security system in place. And I did have somebody come in and reset that up. That was really, but I wanted something that was internet connected. So, now I can go out and get in my truck, set the alarm. When I stop for coffee on the way in the morning or whatever, I can turn the alarm system off. So yeah, I do have security in here. In addition to all my model train stuff, I do have a lot of camera equipment and lights, things that anybody looking in the windows could see that there's some fairly expensive, computers are visible. I mean, so it could, and it's not in the best part of town, this place. So it's okay in my view, but,
right.
And so, good friendly neighbors looking out for me. But just 2 days ago, somebody ran over the stop sign out in front of the building.
Obviously, they didn't stop.
Yeah, but when the town came to fix it, they said, "Oh, the beer delivery trucks knock this thing over about once every 3 weeks anyway." We know your property. We know your property, Bob. So that was crazy.
So I understand that you got an update to your carbon black from the last live stream. So what you got?
And as I said during that presentation, I had ordered one of the Athearn carbon black cars from eBay, and they promised delivery within, well before my last hosting Sidetrack Sunday, I think the 29th. Well, it didn't arrive until just now. So I figured I would, although I don't have an overhead camera set up, I'll go ahead and pop this open and we'll have a look at this. I'll try and hold it up to the camera in my bad light situation here.
I was trying to see if I could get
because I had Boxcar Jerry was kind enough to be looking for carbon black cars for me online, but he hadn't found anything except N scale ones so far. So this may
They,
be one of the, boy, I'm really struggling to get this box open. I'm not trying to imitate Heath and take a long time to get this open. I'm just literally having trouble getting the box open.
Dave down at the Carolina Foothills, ATF, alcohol, trains, and firearms. Oh,
I've now cut every piece of tape on the box. And I'm going to have to start cutting the box itself in frustration. So that's what I will do. Aha, it is now open.
I told you we should have locked the basement door, Bob.
Who we got joining us?
All
right, Dave. All right, so we got the famous blue box here. It says on the side, a 55-foot center flow United Carbon, $4.25. Gotta like that price.
Oh yeah.
All right, so I know that video quality is not going to be that great here, but hang on. There's a small sprue of detail parts stuck in the end handrails. Hopefully, there we go. So let me see. I don't know if that's about as clear as I don't think it'll focus if I get it closer.
Yeah, you got to take it back towards you.
Yeah. All right. That's it. That's the best I can do. So the first thing that jumps out at me about this is it's not a carbon black car because it doesn't have the fittings on either side where you can use the air to clean the car out. So down here by the side sills, there's no fittings down there. So this is kind of just a generic hopper that's been painted for carbon black service, but it's not actually a car that would be used in carbon black service because it lacks that detail. Now, that may be the way that I'm going to have to populate my fleet of carbon black cars anyway. So I'm not complaining, but the scale trains cars all have that detail on them. So,
if I'm not mistaken, I think I've got a couple of plastic pellet Athearn cars that have an air compressor or an air pump on one side, and it's a detail part that came in the box. So it might be, and you may want to look at the sprue. It may actually be there.
Yeah, I'll have to look, and I don't know that technology is limited to the carbon black business.
Right, exactly. So, like I said, I think the plastic pellets are the same way.
So I might be able to find other hopper. I've looked, I've just kind of looked on eBay, looked at covered hoppers generally, and I've looked at dozens and dozens of them, and none of them have had that. But that's a pretty limited and unscientific search. So that, and this is a nice looking car in terms of the paint scheme is nice, detailing is good. It's not a current, rivet counter scale trains or jack rail kind of thing, in terms of the thickness of the handrails. It's got completely solid roof walkways, doesn't have meshed, wire etched metal walkways or anything like that, but it's still a decent looking car. So, and it's not well painted, United Carbon Company, carbon black. So, I don't know. I think it would have to be repainted. As I said during my presentation, it appears to me that these cars do not move between manufacturers, between carbon black companies. So if I'm modeling a Tokai Carbon, I'm going to have, and sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, I'm going to have Tokai cars.
Right.
And so this would have to be patched out perhaps, and then have Tokai added to it. But, it's a nice start. And while it wasn't $4.25 for me to buy it the other day, it was still a lot less than, what a brand new scale trains car would be. So I don't know.
Dave, I almost picked up something at the show yesterday that I think you would have gotten a kick out of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have bought it and I didn't.
Billboard car?
Somebody had a Dutch boy billboard hopper car.
Right.
It was the yellow one. The interesting thing with that one is part of it had on the roof hatches, it like had 3 of them that were the same, and then it had another set of 3 that were different than the first set of 3, and then the next set of 3 or the next set of 6 were completely different from the first 2 sets. I'm like, what in the world were they? Who put this car together? But yeah, it was really odd because I thought that Tyco was the only ones that did those, but I'm guessing somebody else did them.
Yeah, there's a couple different manufacturers and there's a couple different versions of those.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, that close.
Yeah, then you go to O scale. Yeah.
Yeah, this one was HO, but I almost picked it up. I was the funniest thing of it is there, Bob. While I was at the show yesterday, I was looking around to see if there were any carbon black cars floating around, and I didn't see any.
Yeah, I was just about to say I probably need to get STS Nation to. I need to like set a price limit. Okay, I'll spend X per car. And if everybody in the chat looks for me, I should have a pretty good and buys for me. I should have a good collection of cars in short order.
Hey, Jason the Train Freak is here. Yeah, I'm filling in for John tonight. John's not feeling good, so we decided we were gonna divide and conquer this one.
Well, the reality is
3 of us today.
Yeah,
the Godfather Ray said, "I'll take it." He was just going to fly solo, and I just thought, we should divide and conquer. And I wanted to show you guys that car and bore you with more carbon black talk. And so I figured I would take the opportunity to help Ray out a little bit. And here's Dave. So I can't read that hat. I can't read your hat, Dave.
Oh, there's actually nothing on it. It had
okay.
FSR was the manufacturer. It had something. I got a technical trade show, and FSR makes Panduit and things for like electrical outlets and on your desk, VGA connectors or HDMI connectors and stuff.
Gotcha.
And I didn't want a hat that said FSR on it because everybody's going to ask me what that is. So I went and cut the letters off.
Now you got somebody saying, "Hey, how come there's nothing on your hat?"
Yeah. What you need to do now is you need to find a seamstress to go ahead and embroider DB Tech on there.
Yeah, I need to stitch DB Tech in there, huh? I had a patch. Maybe
there you go.
Yeah, perfect in there. That's from Pittsburgh. Oh, yeah, you know what that is, John or Bob?
Absolutely. Been up it.
Okay.
Hey, man, if it runs on rails and it's not draperies, I'm interested. And so I have been up there. In fact, I think I did a video about that long ago, going up the incline. Yeah, very, very cool. Yeah. In fact, I just was at a social event with some people who used to live on Mount Washington at the top of the incline, and they talked about how they took it every day to go to work.
Yes,
they would take the incline up and down, and that the buses would stop automatically. There was a button you could push at the bottom of the incline, and the bus would automatically stop there to pick them up. And then for next stop was downtown, so they could get downtown.
Right.
So yeah, they had some interesting incline stories. So
it wasn't until like 1964 that they opened it up to passengers, because it used to be just a box for like workers and actually livestock. They used to bring the mules and the cattle up and down there to work on the railroad.
Okay.
And
interesting.
Yeah, so after the industry kind of slowed down and they didn't need it for that, it wasn't used that much. So then they said, well, maybe we'll just open this up to passengers. So then they made a box, and
it is pretty Spartan in there.
I'm sorry.
It's pretty Spartan in there now. I know.
Oh yeah, it is. And I have a bunch of pictures. I was there. Criminy, was that August or September or something? I was out there. Yeah. Well, as a matter of fact,
I don't think there's any air conditioning in there, for example.
No,
probably no heat either. So there were some great pictures published this winter, though, with all the ice and snow. There were some great shots of the incline, whichever one that is that goes up the McCardle Parkway or McCardle, that turn right there at the Liberty Bridge, right at where the Liberty Bridge goes into the tunnel. You make that right to go up to Mount Washington, and whichever incline that one is, that's the one that they had in the pictures. That's the one that runs down towards what's the name of that? There's that and this does have a railroad connection.
Station Square.
Exactly. And what's the name of that? The Grand Concourse restaurant is in like the Pittsburgh and Lake Erie terminal, I think, or depot rather, passenger depot.
Yeah, that's actually a train station there.
Yeah, and that place inside, I mean, the food is so, but for anybody on this live stream or spectating on this live stream, they would love that. It's just full of detail. It's very Baroque, ornate, but railroad history all over the place. So, well, that's because he's sick. Ray is sick, and he's probably in pain.
Yeah,
in pain.
Yeah. So I saw Ken Amos pop in. Welcome in, sir. Missed you over at the show this weekend. Yeah, you mentioned train stations being turned into restaurants and things of that nature. There's actually one. Hey, McCarville Studios is in the house. Welcome in, bud. Long time no see. There is, from the old Maryland and Pennsylvania Railroad, the old post office / train station that sits down here on Cromwell Bridge Road has been turned into the McFowle's Iron Horse Cafe. Now, what's really neat is the station on the inside, for the most part, outside of the fact that they've turned it into a restaurant, a lot of the stuff that's in there is still from when it was a train station. The floors have been redone and things of that nature. But what they've done is on the walls, they've got pictures of the old Maryland and Pennsylvania all over the place.
Very nice.
So it's a really neat place. The food here, again, just like you said, the food, yeah, it's good for what it is, but it's just the nostalgia of being in that old train station / post office that is just really, really unique. And along those lines, the Maryland and Pennsylvania had another stop just north of there, and I forgot what the name of the station was now. That had been in disrepair for years. It had changed hands, fallen apart, so on and so forth. The county was about that close to going in with a bulldozer. And somebody from the Maryland and Pennsylvania Historical Society basically said, "Oh, no, you don't." And they got up the funds, bought the property, and they've turned it into a coffee shop. They completely restored the building and, got it to where it was safe to walk into, and they've turned it into like I said, they turned it into a coffee shop. It's really, really unique to see. And now they've got another one that's up in Aberdeen. That one there, I think, is an old Baltimore and Ohio station or a Pennsylvania station that hasn't been used for years. And the last I heard on that, somebody has bought that, and they're talking about restoring that one back and turning it into a restaurant, which will be really cool. Glenarm, that's the one. Yes, that's the one I'm talking about, Joe. Yep. They just opened that up, if I'm not mistaken, like 6-8 months ago, maybe 9 months ago. So, it's just really... It's really good to see these historical societies wanting to take a chance and restoring these buildings. I mean, it's a piece of the history by every means, you know, it's a part of the history. And
it's
if
good
it can,
to see that.
it is. It's wonderful to see, you know. I mean, because the stuff is, I mean, like I said, the county was really close to coming through and taking a bulldozer to it.
Absolutely.
And
for so many years we were building all new buildings and see how high we could build them and what kind of technology, make them out of glass. And
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
And then, like, hey, you know what? Let's go back to the original ones and don't forget history. So that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I mean, it's kind of like what the Baltimore Streetcar Museum has been up to for the last, I guess, year and a half now, where they're trying to get a hold of the old Maryland and Pennsylvania roundhouse that the city of Baltimore has been using for a salt shed. And of course, we all know what, you know, the road salt does to anything.
Yeah.
You know, and it's that, unfortunately, that building is going to take quite a bit to bring back. However, they've had structural engineers down there, and the building itself is still structurally sound. The roof, not so much. But hey, saved by the train.
Yeah, you hear that? Yeah. This is got to be one of the best locations ever. How did I get so damn lucky? I've got trains going by all night long. I don't want to miss, Ken, I feel for you on your health. Really just take care of yourself, brother. You know.
Hey, man, I didn't realize that, my friend. Take care of yourself.
So we're thinking about you.
Absolutely.
We're thinking about you. Even when the train goes by. Yeah, when weather gets better, we'll be out there. Trust me. When I'm live streaming, I'll try and be outside. And
he's going to do what is it, Mini Prince? He'll have a camera sitting there pointed at the railroad tracks on the outside of the building.
I thought about doing that, setting up a 24/7 live stream. But I don't think there's not that much traffic.
No,
but it would be I need to figure out how to get my drone camera to come onto the live stream. Says the guy who can't even get his audio right.
Baby steps, Bob. Baby steps. We'll get there.
That would be cool. Then
the only way you could probably do that, Bob, is to use your cell phone and then like live stream from your cell phone or add that in as another source.
Yeah, I have to figure out. I use a tablet. I use a pretty nice tablet that has a really bright screen, supposedly military grade tablet to control my drones. But that could, I might be able to tie that in. You're right. I'll have to experiment with that.
That would be good.
But we'll see. I need to get the drone up there pretty soon while there's still ice on the river. You know, it's still kind of And the other day, for the first time in all the time that I've been here, there were trains on the other side of the Allegheny. Now, I don't know whose line that is, but there was a unit train of gray hoppers over there on the other side of the Allegheny. And so that's more things to investigate. Dave, when you lived here in Pittsburgh, did you go down to the trench at all to watch trains?
The trench?
You know, the trench, yeah. It's west. It's just west. There's a park that's just west of the Allegheny Commons.
Okay.
So it's on the north side of the Allegheny, and it's just past Deutschetown, just west of Deutschetown.
Okay.
There's a place where I can't remember whose yard it is, but there's a yard throat that comes out and runs through a city park. And the trains are below grade level in a trench. You're looking down into them with a line of trees on either side. It's a really picturesque spot. So I've got to get down there. I'm hoping for one more snowfall, only one.
Yeah.
And then I'll go down and take pictures of trains in the snow down. I mean, I worked at the Allegheny Commons for 2.5 years, and I had no idea. I was like, I knew there were trains going by, and at lunch I would sit outside and watch trains all day, but I had no idea that the trench was literally 200 yards away. I could have easily walked down there and had a much better view. But I didn't know if you had any experience with it. You could tell me a little bit about what it's like to rail fan there. So.
No, I lived in Pittsburgh until about 1986 when I was 18. So I guess at that age, I wasn't really that much into trains. Where I lived, the trolley had come out that way, which was for a teenager, that was a primary mode of transportation.
Right.
And I guess now they call it the T. So, yes. So you can get anywhere on the T in Pittsburgh.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Joe Rader, that's right. Try Goggling Pappy did a video there. And I brought that up last night at this cocktail party. And some guy, I said, I don't know where the trench is. And some guy looked up where it was, and his source was Pappy's video. I sponsor that guy's channel. Of course, I know everything. That's crazy.
We were sitting there talking about layouts that were in interesting places. I know that the Chesapeake and Allegheny. Hey, John Pod's in the house. Welcome in, sir.
I don't think I've heard of the Chesapeake and Allegheny.
Well, it's a model railroad. It's a model railroad, and that's actually I believe it still is, in the Baltimore Annapolis train station outside down in Severn. Okay. That was unique. Cool. The model railroad club that I belonged to while I was in the service, their model railroads, they had three. They had an N gauge, they had an HO gauge, which we were in the process of rebuilding, and then they had an O gauge 3 rail that they were rebuilding. And that one was actually in an old firehouse, which was unique because what was right behind the firehouse? There was a rail line. Perfect. So, and of course, somebody else was saying every time a train went by, everybody went outside to take a look at the train. Well, yeah, that kind of happened too at that firehouse one. So, yeah, it was really, really unique. I mean, like I said, I have yet to. I want to get down to the Chesapeake and Allegheny one of these days. I've seen video of it. I've seen pictures of it, but I want to get down there because one of the guys that used to work on that railroad, that model railroad, was a surgeon. And he got a hold of surgical tube and actually used that with an air compressor to build a rotary coal dump.
Wow.
And it was just we're talking about when they built this thing back in the, what was it, the late 80s, actually it was probably in the early 80s. Animation for the most part, that was for play toys. You didn't do that for the most part on model. And this guy had this rotary coal dump. The car would come in, it would hit, it would clamp it, it would rotate it a whole 180, and then put it back up on its wheels, release, and it would sit there and go through switchbacks to get to the lower level. It was like, that was insane.
By gravity. And it was
huh?
It went down the switchbacks just by gravity.
Just by gravity. Yeah.
That was some careful track laying and engineering.
Yeah. And the whole thing was done with using compressed air. They used that to slow the cars down when they were going down so they wouldn't go down with gain abandon. But just enough to slow them down. But that whole thing was just done by
wow.
By air compression and gravity. That is like amazing. I just never. The neatest part of that layout, that was one part, was the actual coal loading, because they did empties, loads in, empties out. So up in the mountains, they actually had a coal tipple, and they had a guy that sat underneath the layout, and they would control the locomotive and back it underneath the tipple and watch as the cars got loaded so he could shut it off and turn on the chutes. And here it is, people were made, because here's this train pushing these cars, they're all being evenly loaded, and nobody's touching them. That's because there was a closed circuit TV right above the thing, so you could sit there and see what was going on. And he was controlling the whole thing from under the layout.
I bet you that job got old fast. There was a long line of guys. Oh yeah, I'll run the tipple. Yeah. After about 10 minutes, you're like, pretty impressive. Because,
Yeah.
you know, they always say that modeling a working hump yard is almost impossible because you have no way to retard the speed of the cars after they've gone over the hump, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And these folks seem to have, to a certain extent anyway, overcome that problem.
Figured it out. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
It's amazing what they did. Did he have a digital scale the weight of each car? I don't think so. It was all done by eye. It was all done by eye, Jason. I'll have to see if I can make it. That's going to be one of the, as we talked about a couple weeks ago in my my live stream. One of the things that's going to be coming up is, and I'm still working on some of the research and all the background, is the history of model railroading. You know, what got us to where we are today. You know, who were the people that got us to be model railroaders and not railroad modelers. And, you know, there's a lot of great layouts out there. There's a lot of people that have influenced the hobby over the years amongst the folks that are now on YouTube. But, you know, those older layouts, like I said, the Chesapeake and Allegheny and the Gory and Defeated and the Delta lines and the Canandaigua Southern,
right,
and
right.
You know, the Piedmont division of the Western Maryland, and you know,
amazing stuff. Yeah,
the Virginian and Ohio, the nickel plate of Tony Custer. So exactly, Ed, exactly. The people that took them from toys to models. You know, and I wanted to dig into, because I don't think it's something, I know that there's people out there that do videos on more of the present day layouts. You know, Al Puglisi, if you go ahead and follow him, he's constantly, of course, he works a lot with Howard Zane, but he goes out to a lot of the ones that are in the area here and that are on the verge of being finished. If there is such a thing in the model railroad world, a layout that's finished, yeah, no, that doesn't happen.
Really?
Yeah, the ones that are further along than this monster behind me, let's put it that way. But he goes out and does, you know, 15, 20, 30-minute videos on those layouts, which is great. That's modern day. That's where we are today. What got us here? Who got us here? Right. And that's what I want to go back and touch on, because, like I said, it's been a lot of years since, you know, folks talked about, you know, John Allen's Gory and Defeated, and the Gory and Defeated, and then the Delta lines of Frank Ellison and so on and so forth. You know, that I think it'd be neat to go ahead and take that road down that path of where did we come from? How did we get here? Hey, Ron from the Southwest is in the house. Welcome in,
Ron.
Ron, you promised a video about your Amherst haul, and I'm waiting. I keep checking your channel for that. So the pressure's on. Pressure's on, buddy. You know, Ray, I share your fascination with that, and I think I mentioned on a prior stream at some point, I'm pretty sure it was John Allen replicated the Nighthawks scene, the Nighthawks painting, on his layout. And when he passed and his railroad was divided up, a guy got that cut out section of the Gory and Defeated, and he replicated that in HO and N, because there's some perspective tricks and things that were built into it. So of course, and he gave a presentation at one of the NMRA nationals that I went to about the scene, and he actually was selling kits to build that scene, the Nighthawk scene, on your own layout. So of course I had to get one. So when you get ready to whether I'll ever actually put that on my layout, highly unlikely since I'm modeling the present day, but in the South. So, and that was, I believe, in Chicago. But when you get to that, you're doing that show about the Gory and Defeated. I'll either send that kit to you or I'll bring it online or something. And we can dissect that a little bit. That can be part of it because there's so much to learn. They had to use so much creativity and imagination back then because they didn't have anything ready to run.
No.
And Dave would have been in high demand because they had unreliable equipment and they had to be, electrical and mechanical engineers, artists, things that we have to do too, but not to the same extent, right? They had to hand detail every car. They had to hand paint every car. I mean, it was just building cars from scratch. It's just crazy.
Well, that's kind of my fascination with the Lionel pre-war and post-war accessories and things. All they had to work with was like simple relays and springs, and that was it.
Bobby pins and right.
Some really basic things to make something happen.
What really fascinates me, and it was one of the things that I was actually looking into doing at one point on here until I realized that I really didn't have the real estate to do it, was, back in the day, you talk about not having ready to run stuff. And so buildings, they scratch built everything. And most of it was built out of cardstock.
Right.
That's a material that nobody touches anymore for the most part. I mean, I know that there was a thing last year, I think it was, where they had one of the streams or one of the podcasts had a guy that was one of the old school guys that was actually sitting there and building stuff out of cardstock. Literally what I was thinking about doing, which was out of the Coke cases.
Right.
You cut that stuff up and you can you basically make it almost like plywood. You put multiple layers together and then you go ahead and you cut out whatever you need. And it's just, it's ridiculous.
It's out there though. I have a whole box full of shipping containers that I made out of cardstock. You can print them, fold them, glue them. It's one of my more popular videos, actually, is how to get started in paper modeling. Don't think I'm really qualified to make that video, but I did anyway. But it's out there. And I think that, with the use of photographs, I think making buildings out of cardstock can be even more attractive, right? You can get photographic level detail. You can get good pictures of a structure. You can just paste. And I think Lance Mindheim does some stuff like that, right? Where he'll take a photograph of the side of a building. He'll laminate it onto plastic or onto, some thicker cardboard. He'll add a few three-dimensional details to it. Done. No painting required. So I like that possibility. In fact, the service station I'm scratch building, I should think about that. I should think about because I took a ton of pictures of that structure, so I should think about printing that out. I will do that. Thank you for the incentive, Ray. The idea.
There was a
good at that. The 3D printer has saved me as far as building structures. I can make a drawing that's really good. I'm good with the CAD, and you saw some of the projects I did, and thank goodness I could print it because I sat here and I tried to cut stuff out of cardboard with an X-Acto knife and a ruler, and it's just.
Well, that building that I was working on is still sitting back here. The one I was building out of foam core.
Oh,
yeah. I'm surprised that Grandpa Rails hasn't beaten me up more about that one. But now we're down to only two of us that are working on that, and it's one of those things. I jumped the gun really because I was not ready to take that project on. I've got so many other things that I want to finish on this layout before I even get to that hill that, I just kind of like, what? Yeah, this will be great, but nah, not right now. I'm not ready for that yet. Not to mention the fact that I need to work on my skills a little bit more too. Although I think he had messaged me at one point saying he was actually going to 3D print his, which, okay, great. Again, if you're great with CAD, way to go. Sure. I'm not, like I said, the last time I touched a CAD program is when I was doing electrical engineering. So
now that you're printing, though, you're going to have to refresh your
yeah,
skills.
well, I am going to, but yeah, but that was so easy back because there's a resistor, there's a capacitor, didn't have to think about it. You just dropped it in, and, before you started soldering anything to a breadboard, you actually could build a circuit and see if it worked.
In the chat, Ron reminded me that Lance Mindtime actually uses photographs to make his roads. He gets up high, shoots pictures down of the roads, so he gets all the grates and the staining and any other variations. Then he prints out pictures of the roads and pastes them down, So you never know what you can use.
Everybody's
all right,
a critic.
JJ, that is
everybody's a critic. Thanks, JJ. Appreciate that. And of course, Ken's gonna jump in on that one too. So
no, I honestly have at least 5 projects going on here at one time. You start something and then you set it aside, or you're not sure where you're going with it, and then all right, let's go on to something else.
Well, and it's like I mentioned in the last video. Here it is. I'm back there at the spray booth. I was working on those 2 FP7As. Getting them painted up for the B&N. And what do you do while paint? What do you do while paint's drying? Well, you got to have something else to work on. If not, you're not doing anything.
Right.
So that's when I went over and started working some more on the hill, and working on that. And it's like, well, go back, check the paint. Okay, paint's dry. All right, to go back and do something else. Once it's finished, come back out here, do some work out here.
Yeah.
But between that, the cabooses and the hill and the dam and the trees, and I still can't find the forest for the trees. But but you get to the point where if you didn't, then you're sitting there going, well, I haven't accomplished anything. And I think that was one of the issues that I had with this. Is I got to the point where the thing ran. And it runs rather well. And at that point, it was like, okay, cool, it runs. And now I've gotten to the point, and I've mentioned this a few times before, I'm getting tired of looking at all the white. So I started painting. So it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to paint it, then I might as well go ahead and try and get some scenery on it. Now I got to get some, now I've got the buildings. Okay, so now great. Now we got to go ahead and start tying everything together. And scenery has never been, I guess, one of my strong points. So it's like, and I think that's one of the things that's held me back, is trying to get it the way I want it and get it to look right. And that is going to be painful. I know it's going to be painful because, like I said, I am just not the greatest of scenery guys. So, hey, Russ, welcome in.
Well, scenery is optional in this day and age. Honestly, it is. There's so many other aspects of the hobby that you may want to enjoy. You may want to set up operations, and I know you're working on that, Ray. So you may want to focus on that. And if you have a cardboard box that says Pickle Factory on it, that's fine. I mean, you may not be satisfied with that. You may want to have a completely finished railroad in all respects, and I respect that. But I just think in this day and age, it's not absolutely necessary. Yeah. Look at, was it that guy, the Cat Mountain? I can't remember what the name of that layout was.
Cat Mountain in Santa Fe. Yep.
Yeah. He never finished any scenery. He never had an intention of finishing scenery. And so, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. But, we talk a lot about, I wanted to get this out. I thought about this earlier when we were talking about finishing projects. And while it's easy to say finishing is overrated, there's nothing quite like finishing a project, is there? I mean, I know when I finish a model, that's why I'm doing this. And I don't do it enough. I don't finish that many models. I'm like everybody else here, I got a dozen projects going on simultaneously. But when I do finish that project, man, that feels good. It really is. it is important that you finish some projects. I just or you know you
I usually
won't have
forget
real
that I finish
progress.
projects. I sit here and I go on to another project, and I'm sitting here thinking, what was I working on last week? Oh, that's right, that other thing. I finished it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like the bridge and the dam. I mean, that rebuilding that bridge, that whole 2-track bridge. I mean, that was a kit bash that I had no intentions of diving into, but it was a necessity. And to be perfectly honest, not to toot my own horn, but I think it turned out freaking awesome. Uh, but that dam scene had been such a pain in the rear end to get it to look right, to get it to tie in. And I was talking to, I don't know if it was Nick from Nick's Crossings Saturday or if it was my buddy Big John Friday night. But either one, it was like I finally got it to the point where it ties in now. No, it was Joe. That's right. When I dropped that sticker off to Joe. Speaking of which, there are going to be stickers in the mail, folks. I just haven't gotten there yet. I literally cut those stickers. I cut those stickers out Saturday before I left for the show. So, but at any rate.
How's Big John doing, by the way? I can't remember how, I can't forget how humbled I was sitting next to him at the crab feast. I thought I knew how to eat. Shoot, that guy could tear through some crabs. I was such a duffer, but he was nice enough to tell me how to do it, you know. But that guy, I mean, oh my goodness, he knows how to eat a crab. Woo.
Yeah, he's doing all right. He actually had to back out of the bowling the second half of the season. He's got some medical issues that's not allowing him to bowl. So he still comes up to the bowling alley and hangs out and so on and so forth. But yeah, it was just
kind of a steep slope from Big John eating like 100 crabs to me eating about 10 to Sparky eating none. Sparky next to me. Sparky, I had to convince him to eat some of the crab stew, which he acknowledged was very good.
Yeah.
But he was not going to do that.
Yeah, and you know, Opa Dodge brings up a good point because I saw his video. I don't know if anybody else saw what he did this morning or what he posted. I think it was this morning. He went ahead and reworked the switches on his layout. Instead of having single switches to get from one set of tracks to the other, they went ahead and he put in double slips.
Wow.
And it really, of course, it changed the dynamic a little bit because, and he explains it very well in that video because of the fact that he uses Maryland C-Track, that everything is done by millimeters. You know, they've got certain sections of track and all together, you know, so when he built it, not thinking about that, you know, you should kind of one of the things that even we do or we have, where if you're going to have a 22-inch radius, inner radius, the next radius out is like either 24 or 26. The next one out from that's 28 or 30, and so on and so forth. And when he did his, he kind of went with the same type of radius on 3 different tracks, and then went to another radius on the next 2, and then went to another radius on the and it kind of screwed it. I wouldn't say screwed things up, but it made the dynamic change a little bit because the way that those double slips are set up, they have to be they have to be so far apart. And it's like I said, it does change that out. There you go. It changed the algorithm.
I mean,
so yeah,
his layout is a freaking raceway. There's so many trains moving. I can only imagine the chaos that change would create. Hello, Randall. By the way, I see Randall's online there.
Hey, Randall. Yeah, but I tell you what, I love what Opa Dodge has over there, though. I mean, just the equipment alone. That newest locomotive that he picked up that has Maryland down the side, that black and red, that is such a unique piece.
Beautiful.
I mean, that is so nice looking. I mean, not that anything else that he runs isn't, but that really stands out.
Right. Yeah.
That really stands out.
It's a model manufacturer's scheme, right? But it's sweet.
Yeah.
It's just so sweet. All right, Jason.
Drain Freak's got a contest going on that I did. I must have missed that. I knew he was talking about one, but I didn't know he actually started it. I'll have to go. I'll have to go take a look at that. I'll have to go check that one out. All right, here we go. I went with the widest radius R5, R5, R4, R4 rather than, yeah, see, and yeah, I can see where, and that's kind of the same issue that I have on mine because I didn't go any higher than 22. Both of my main lines are 22-inch radius. And I probably should have done 22 and 24 or 26 on that on the outermost. It would have made things look a little bit better. But one of my concerns was I wasn't that good with laying flex track on a curve. I've tried it once, and it looked like hell when I got done. And I'm like, I ain't doing that again. So I went straight with snap track, and okay, beat me up for it. It's my railroad.
It works.
It worked. But I tell you what, the area that I had the biggest issue with trying to get it to line up when I got done was the S curves. Because of the fact that you got 22, all the way around that thing. Yeah. That wasn't smart. Yeah.
Well, Ray, you're going to enjoy my talk on my track plan because I started out, my first drawing, I started out with a 48-inch minimum radius. And I've compromised down to 39 right now. But I'm trying to keep it extremely wide radius curves.
And to be perfectly honest, and I get it, when you start
I have the luxury of space, right?
Well, that's number one. But when you start talking about, and I've noticed it's one of the things with some of my longer passenger cars, they really don't look right going through the S curves because the S curves are too sharp for those 79 or 75 or 80 foot passenger cars. When you start talking modern rolling stock, where the smallest piece is 70 some feet, yeah, you've got to go with the biggest radius that you can possibly. And it's one of the things that model railroader has brought up as well. You put in the biggest radius that you can possibly put into your space, because then you're not going to limit yourself to the rolling stock or the locomotives and so on and so forth.
Yep.
But
appearance will be good.
Right, exactly. The appearance of the rolling stock and everything else looks so much better. There was a question I didn't want to skip over it. Big John, my buddy Big John, who's the S gauger, he does not have a YouTube channel that I'm aware of. He hasn't talked about one yet. I think we've all talked about it. It's been mentioned in my videos. He has or had a layout that had been passed down from his grandfather to his father, then down to him. And, so but right now he doesn't have the space to put one up full time. So it just comes up at Christmas. But
Russ,
yeah,
you're making me laugh. Russ,
what's that?
Russ is rocking.
Oh, it doesn't need those thinking track plans. To be perfectly honest with this one here, I had the idea in my head of what I wanted this to look like. And when I started laying the track, it changed because of space. And the fact that, one of the things that I remember, again, going back into the old videos, take it easy, JJ.
Big one.
One of the biggest things that I remember from somebody, I think it was Model Railroad, it could have been someplace else, you try not to follow the edge of the layout or if you can, because of the fact that you don't want stuff right up against the edge. It's too easy to knock it over, and and so on and so forth, which is one of the reasons why that S curve is in there. It was to try and break things up a little bit to where it didn't look like you were following the layout. the unfortunate thing here is that's the only place where that came into the point where I wasn't following the edge of the layout, because the rest of the time, guess where the tracks are? We're right up against the edge.
Right.
Because of space.
It ends up that way most of the time.
It does.
I wanted two, I wanted two double loop, or a double loop, one loop inside the other and then have them connected. So I just went with the space that I had, and like the outer loop, we were talking about the radius of curves, and I said, you know what, we'll just make everything 18-inch radius, and the outer loop, I just put an extra piece of track, straight track, so it was the same.
Bump it out, yeah, same radius.
Just bump it out, and then again, the rest of it turnouts, because they do connect to each other, and it's just a matter of, well, this is going to fit here, and let's do this with as minimal cutting as necessary or as possible, and fit it together.
Well, the funniest thing of it is my dad's old layout. That was 18, 20, that was 18, 15, and 10 and a half.
Wow. 18 was the biggest radius.
18 was the biggest radius. Right.
But that was 40-foot boxcars.
Right. We're talking, yeah, exactly. Right. And we're talking the equipment from the 40s and 50s, for goodness sakes. You weren't going that big.
Thanks for that answer there, outsider. I was wondering what an R5 was.
But the funniest thing of it is I bought that one. I bought the one GG1 that I have, the Tuscan red one. And like an idiot, I decide, you know what? I want to see what this thing looks like going across 15-inch radius. Oh yeah, it made it. Believe it or not, it made it. If it weren't for the fact that the telephone poles were right next to the edge of the track, it would have gone even further. But it was the funniest daggone thing, because, take it easy, Anthony, Georgia Sunbelt, on the apex of the corner, the body was dead straight and the wheels are sitting out like this off to the side. Right. It was just the funniest freaking thing. I'm like, yeah, it'll make it, but it's taking out all the scenery with it when it goes around.
Right. I immediately thought of that commercial with the dog running around with the lightsaber. Well, that's the model railroader's equivalent. Just knocking stuff off the layout. Well, speaking of big equipment, I think I've mentioned this before, and I won't mention it again after this, but I have a couple of really huge flat car models from a company called Railfan Models. And they appear to have gone out of business, and the instructions for putting these massive resin kits together were all on their website, which is now, like a 404 error or something. Right? I mean, you get nothing. So if anybody out there knows anything about Railfan Models, the guy was really nice. He used to be at the RPM meets, and he may be located right here in Newcastle. Newcastle is where the Casgo company, who has all these specialty flat cars, are headquartered. I'm gonna do a trip up there and do a video of it. Their slogan is "Red and Ready." They have these long red flat cars. So like one of them I have has got like 16 axles, and so they're really long. They're these resin kits. They're really complicated. Probably unnecessarily complicated, frankly, but I mean, at least the parts are in bags. They're bagged in sequential order, so I can probably start with bag number one and start building the thing and try and figure it out. But I'd really prefer not to. We had a really great. So if anybody knows anything about Railfan Models and can help connect me with those guys, or that guy, I think it was a one-man operation, and he built a lot of models for Casgo, for the executives. So when they had a new flat car, because they build a lot of custom equipment for certain jobs. But apparently, when you go to Newcastle, if you just drive around, they're parking their red flat cars all over the place. They're looking for some place to store these cars. So it could be an interesting Railfan experience to go up there. So
absolutely,
that'll be a video at some point.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Schnabel cars.
Exactly. Huge. Right. I mean, my 48-inch radius plan might be the only way to run that thing. Oh, they're still on Facebook. Okay, I'll check that out. Thank you, Anthony. I did not do that. I know their website was empty. You appeal to the STS community and you get answers. That is awesome. Thank you.
You may not necessarily get the right answer from time to time, but you will get an answer.
Thank you.
No,
Anthony Dodge. That's great. I did not think to look there. I hope they're still in business. I hope they're still in business. It's a cool product. It's a cool product.
Anyway, well, we're at 9:22 at the moment, and I want to go ahead and get things wrapped up. But yeah, it was great having you guys up here. Great discussion, and it's neat to see that that carbon black car there, Bob. That was, I know you wanted that for your show, but
yeah,
you know,
it's interesting. Wait till I start scratch building that industry. That is going to be.
Yeah,
that's going to be my own scale drawings of some of those structures, and then maybe I'm just going to be on bended knee trying to get Dave to do some CAD drawings and print them for me instead of
sure,
scratch build these things.
I make up all kinds of things.
But honestly, I think 3D printing like ladders and those caged ladders where there's a cage around you as you're climbing the ladder. You mean those are things that I think 3D printing would be almost. I mean, you could do it in brass. You could do it solder brass. I've done it. Making a ladder out of brass. Oh my gosh.
I've sat here with popsicle sticks and glue and wire, and you're trying to make something, and then like, you know what? Stop it. You go to the CAD program, I CAD it, put it on the printer, bam, I'm done.
Right. I know. I gotta get into the current times.
If you're at all interested, I can show you 5 minutes of what I've been messing with today.
Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me see if I can get that overhead camera. There we go.
Oop, hey, man. Let me get us back. Here we go. I got to move you over. And then
Thank
we
you,
got to do
James
that.
and
there.
Ron, for I'm glad we were able to substitute in for the Count. Why do we call him the Count, by the way? I love that nickname. But I'm glad we were able to substitute in for him. Oh, the Pennsylvania and the Tuscan Red. I love it already.
Yeah, this is today's project of, I was about to put this away. Now, another story is I actually made the trucks for these on the 3D printer. This whole assembly 3D printed.
Wow.
Someone gave this to me. I said, I'll do something with it. So I did that. And then I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, it needs some people in it, right?
Right.
So here I am today with the 3D printer. I'm thinking, well, I could get some popsicle sticks, some blocks of wood. Nah, go to the 3D printer. So, yeah, so I'm trying to fit them in there. So I cut this piece of cardboard. I might make the whole assembly so I can fit it in there. And again, this was something, I have no idea how big to make that. And, well, it's 0.4 inches high. And again, is it 1/64 scale or 1/48? And, I'm making people here with the 3D printer. Well, this one here, I didn't 3D print. So like she kind of fits on there. Is a nice size for that train, but the seat's too big for her. This guy, what's that?
Your child.
Yeah, I guess so. That could look like a child, I guess. Yeah.
Might be a little too developed for a child. Sorry, now that I look at that a little more closely.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little person.
Oh, you're killing me.
Somebody's got to stand in for Rick, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Just upholding STS tradition.
Right.
So anyhow, yeah, you can find people on the Thingiverse there. So I've been printing people today, trying to find something that looks right in here. And again, I made a seat that I have no idea what I think of that.
You can shrink it down, right?
What's that?
You can shrink it down. You can print it in a smaller scale if you want to, and see how that looks, right?
Yeah, I could take this thing here and just scale it down in there. I guess I could show you this here. So I printed this. It was a girl on a suitcase, and I thought, oh, that looks pretty cool. It looked like it's just sitting out there waiting to get picked up. And I realized that well, I'm not going to show you real close.
She had all of her clothing in the suitcases.
Yeah. That's what I downloaded the print and I printed it. It came off the printer and I looked at it because I'm scraping away the plastic and I said, what the heck?
El natural. Anyway.
One way to get a ride, I think.
I guess, yeah. So,
surprising young woman.
yeah.
Well, that's a cool project. It reminds John shared a project where he was doing an interior as well. So
yeah,
cool.
I guess you can buy these. This is 027. So I mean, I guess even with O gauge, you have O gauge and 027, and there's like semi-scale, I guess they call it. Yeah, and I guess that's semi-scale. In other words, that's not full 1/48 scale. That's probably 1/64 actually. And then I'm thinking, okay, so how big is a seat? I don't know. How big is your seat? 20 inches high? I don't. So that's. And that's what happens with cats. So anyhow, that was today's project. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, that's an old model.
Yes.
And fidelity to scale it's a toy train, right? So you have to use your creative instincts in order to scale things because you have no idea whether width and length of the car is accurate or anything like that. So you've got to make it up.
I guess the thing, Ray, and you'll find out if you do a lot of printing, like this guy here, I'm trying to think, because I have to write this down. So in other words, you print one, you scale it to a certain size. So that guy I printed at 31 millimeters. So he's too big. So what I have to do then is go back and you have to make notes of everything. You can't see. Yeah, you've got how big did I make it? So at 31 millimeters, he's too big. So okay, let's try him at like
29
or so. 29, 28. Let's put him in there. Yeah.
What's a millimeter among friends?
And when you figure it out, then you know what scale to print everybody.
Yeah, I've got parts all over the place, and you're thinking, I have no idea what size I printed that. And
cool.
Yep.
Cool. Really, to have that flexibility and that power to just go in, change a number, run it again, change the number again, run it again. Okay, now this looks good. I mean, and
then you got to remember what you did that looks right.
Yeah, you got to write it down. You're right about that.
Well, and it's the same thing. You bring that up, Dave, but it's the same thing with the painting that I've been doing. Yeah. Here it is. I figured out, and it was just by luck. I took that iridescent white, put 0.4 ounces of that into a cup, and then I put 0.1 ounces of gray in there, and I actually came up with an iridescent silver, and it was dumb luck. I mean, it was like, well, what? Let's see. I wonder what a 4-to-1 looks like. Well, wait a minute, and it didn't look right in the bottle or in the cup. But when I went ahead and thinned it down and sprayed it on the model, it was like when it dried, it's like, holy crap! I gotta mark that down now.
Right, so, you gotta write it down. I got a notebook here. Some of my prints, But,
but it's the same thing. When you hit that aha moment, it's like boom. All right, gotta write that down because if not, I'm gonna forget it.
Yeah.
All right, we're now at 9:30, Ray. So
it's
time for the Godfather. Tell us that the party is over.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
What am I supposed to do next? The 9th is next week.
Yeah, the 9th is next week,
and you're competing with the Super Bowl.
I think I'm gonna have to. I don't watch football, so
yeah, right. I doubt that very few people will be, but
STS Nation is probably not populated by rabid football fans.
I'll have to put all my projects on a card or something, and pick a card, and we'll see what we're doing next week.
All right.
And then Bob, you've got the week after.
I do, and I'll be ready.
All right, and that's
my track plan drama. I've done all kinds of island plans, but now I'm thinking, okay, I've got this 78-foot run against that wall. Am I crazy? I should really run a 78-foot shelf. So that'll be the next plan. So yeah, we'll be having fun with track planning when on the 16th for sure.
And as far as I know, I'll be bringing up the end of the month again, and I don't know what I'm going to be doing for that show yet. Well, that's a work in progress.
We've begun to take the cannolis.
Oh, say hello to my little friend. Oh my gosh. Yeah, here we go.
Well, thank you all for tolerating us in the place of.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah. You won't be doing that kind of growing out. Growing flowers. She's a flower nut.
Oh boy. Oh my gosh.
Everybody
all
thinks
right,
that.
gentlemen.
I people across the street, or I was making a grow room. They were like, "All
right."
No. I know it used to be a beer distributorship, but it is not going to become a marijuana. Thank you for pulling this together, Ray.
Hey,
thank you,
absolutely.
Dave,
thank you, gentlemen.
and sharing that cool project with us. And thanks everybody in the audience for tolerating us in the Count's Dead.
Yep. So, all right, you all know the deal. Wait for the highball. Green tracks ahead. We'll catch you all next time. Be safe. God bless. We will see ya.
See you next time.